Welcome to the Weaponized Marriage Podcast.
Good job.
All right. And let's dive in.
What are you going to talk about?
I think we're going to do an update. And I proposed some ideas that.
Okay. Well, why don't you start with the update? We'll go from there.
So we just had our 16th wedding anniversary as part of our update.
Oh, yeah.
Also, too, it's been a while since we did it. We had, it was my birthday. And we're coming up on.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. We're coming up on a big thing. So one of the things that I think when I talk about our anniversary a little bit that's been coming up, for me, one of the things that I think was really cool is that it's a little bit delayed, but you did a post about our anniversary. And my favorite thing is that you used that I chose to marry someone with 6 figures of debt, a cast iron pan, and the persistence of a honey badger. And I really liked that line.
Why did you like that?
Because I think that I was the one that said that to you. Like when you get what I call after me, I always will say, stop badgering me, because I do see you as a honey badger sometimes.
I mean,
honey badgers just don't give a fuck.
Are honey badgers hot?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
Oh my God, we forgot to wear shirts.
Oh yeah, next time.
So on our last episode, I talked about how a guy came up to me at the gym and was like, "What are you training for?" And I said, just very like casually, "Have you seen my husband?" And then obviously your phone listens to you, right? And which is scary in itself. And
that's a good answer, by the way.
I know it was an amazing answer. And he was like, he thought it was hilarious. So did I, actually. I thought that was pretty funny. And I ended up getting shirts. And
all the old guys love you at the gym.
I know. And I'm getting us business for Weaponized from it. Like another older guy asked me yesterday about how he got a consult with you.
All right, well, just keep wearing sexy outfits to the gym.
I don't even wear sexy outfits.
Send guys my way.
Like half the clothes that I wear to the gym are not sexy, and they are very old.
Okay, well, start wearing sexy outfits to the gym. Get me more clients.
I don't even need to wear sexy outfits to the gym.
You don't even need sexy
just being approachable helps.
Yes, having good energy helps a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, so I got Ryan a shirt that says I work out. What does it say? I work out because my wife's hot or something.
Uh-huh.
And his shirt's awesome. My shirt, the color's awesome, but you can't read it. So I actually do have to ask them to get me a new one.
Do your favorite thing and do a return.
Yeah. And
do a return. Of returns.
But anyways, okay. So back to anniversary. So that was my favorite line in your post, because it made me really think about how did I say yes to 6 figures of debt? But you made it sound kind of what's the word? Succinct. But the upside was so much greater than the 6 figures of debt. The fact that you only brought a cast iron pan, which we still own to this day, and that you still have the persistence of a honey badger.
I want you to bury me with that pat.
You better be careful. Maybe if I get mad, I might hit you with it.
Okay. Is that how I'm going out?
Maybe, I don't know. Piss me off enough and you might. So anyways, I wanted to kind of comment that, share what we did for our anniversary, because it was a big one. And we have
Is it a big one?
Well, we had a 15-year.
That was last year.
And so this is 16, but we're doing our 15th anniversary trip.
That's how it works.
Next week. And our trip is to Italy. We are going for a friend's wedding, and then we're going from the wedding in Italy to our trip that was pre-planned, our anniversary trip, which is going to be in Croatia. And I'm extremely excited about that. And we were joking about how our anniversary weekend, I literally kept track of how many people I needed to coordinate for 2 days away. And that came down to a list of 11 people. There was 11 people, and now I am double that for 12 days in Europe. So it's literally 22 people is the list of people that have to be communicated and managed for us to be able to go away. And I'm not complaining. I just am bringing awareness about when you're in a marriage, never mind when you own businesses and you have multiple properties. There are so many freaking moving parts, and really, really easy to miscommunicate or, have the wheels fall off the bus at times. And I can say honestly that this is the first time I shared this with some of my friends this morning that I am going into a trip. Granted, it's also, like I said, Europe, so it's a little bit less accessible if I'm needed with a time change and everything, where I feel like I have really, really set aside time to organize this where every single person has been um, clearly communicated. I'm going into this trip like truly excited and not coming from a place of anxiety going into it. Now, granted, that's next week, so I still have some time for that to come in. But I've just like, it's the first time where I feel like our communication has been so much better, even around traveling, that I'm noticing a difference.
That's good. I mean, it only took 16 years for you to not have anxiety before we travel. So we're getting somewhere.
Okay.
I'm proud of you.
Oh, thanks, babe. Okay. And anniversary weekend recap. Do you want me to keep going or do you have
Yeah, you
something
keep
you want to
going.
input
You
other
keep-
than that's good?
You keep going.
Okay. All right. So we ended up going to
Although
Kennebunkport.
you make our life sound very complicated when you put it that way.
Our life is complicated,
Well, I know. So,
but it's become our norm.
Yeah.
So we've adjusted to it.
Yeah. And I think, well, it's the life we asked for. So I
Yep.
think that there's something to be said about simplicity in a way. Like, I think I just had this talk with one of my friends who's also a patient, and he was just saying how he's really stressed out and he's not looking that great. And a lot of his stress and anxiety resides around the fact that he wants more simplicity, and his life is not that at this moment. And I don't know if his wife wants the same sort of simplicity he does. Although like the thought of it's nice, but I think that
putting it into practice is a different thing.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe we could talk about that, because as you grow your kingdom, yes, you do have to manage more people. You do have more financial responsibilities, more bills. If you choose to have more children, then you have more and more responsibilities, and animals and businesses and assets, and also like all the shit that you have, right? So I think that in a way, like, simplicity is attractive because it is very easy to just pick up and go. It's very easy to just pick up and leave the country, because then you have no responsibilities, no duties, and all that stuff. But then at the same time, like, there's a lot of joy in making your life, I don't want to say more complicated, but like, I think building your life in a way that, I think if you're not careful, you can build your life into like a mess of complication that just becomes stress and anxiety. But I think what I heard you say when you're saying like, this is the first time that you don't have as much anxiety around the travel, is you're saying that we are more on the same page with communication, but also more organized, delegated, and I mean, more organized and delegated, really.
I mean, I guess I think I would say too is that like over the last year, I feel like you and I have put in a good effort of like, what do we need to simplify without really thinking about it, like on that vein, because it's like, I know for me, first off, let me backtrack a little bit. One of the other things that really stands out is that the past 2 weeks, we've had some really good couple time with some other couples that we're friends with, that the depth of these relationships didn't even exist within a year ago, in my opinion, that we have taken to them to now. And I feel so grateful for that. But the reason I want to say this part is it is so easy, I think, when you're a couple to get complacent and get stuck in the chaos, whether it's your kids or, businesses or, just different like changes going on in your life, right? Even physical changes. And I think it's really easy to get out of consistency with things that add up in your relationship. And I think that one of the things that we have made a huge leap in this year and close the gap in is I feel like you and I have got consistent with a lot of things that make our marriage strong. Like things like, "Hey, we need to talk about this. When can we talk about this?" Like little things that like don't sound like they're big at all, but they add up.
Well, I think I'll say this, that what you're talking about is drifting. So I think there's a lot of married couples that are in a drift and they don't even realize.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to one of my patients this morning, and she's young. She's, in early 30s, and it's her birthday next week. And she had mentioned that she's like, "Oh, I hope my husband plans something for me." I'm like, "Wait a minute, are you doubting that he's going to plan something for you?" She's like, "Yeah, he doesn't really do that kind of stuff. I do all the planning." I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Well,
Sounds familiar in the past.
for sure." So I understood, because I was like, "Oh yeah, I used to lean on my wife to plan everything too." And that didn't work out so good. I was like, "I hope that that, do you tell him that you would like him to plan something?" She's like, "Yeah, but he doesn't listen." I was like, "Oh wow." She's like, "I really want to go on a boat, but he doesn't like boats, so he won't plan that." I'm like, "Well, it's your day. This is something that, wouldn't, he'd be thinking about something you would want to do, not him." She's like, "Yeah, he doesn't really care about that." I'm like, "Wow." To me, it just struck a chord in me, that they're just like, they're in such a drift and they don't even know it. Like they've been together a long time as well. And I was like, man, I don't think I'd ever want to hear my wife say that about me. Right.
Mhm.
I would never want you to say this to somebody, that like, "Oh yeah, I hope Ryan plans something, because he never plans shit. I plan everything. And I really want to go on a boat, but he hates
Which
boat."
at one point in our relationship was the
Yeah.
case.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Admittedly so. Yes. I mean, there's definitely things that I've learned. And what you're talking about is all the things that caused us to drift, that made you more resentful. And then when you have more
Mm.
resentment, then I have more resentment, because then you're not showing up for me like I want you to show up for me. And I'm not showing up for you like you want me to show up for you.
Well, I would have more resentment, you would have more reactivity, and
Yeah,
then
but
it was just
resentment
like,
too.
"Wah."
Resentment as well,
Yeah.
because then you wouldn't be showing up for me the way I wanted you to either. Whether
Mhm.
that was like intimately, sexually, like even just your energy. It was like, "Oh fuck, Ryan's home. Here comes more problems for me." Instead of like, "Oh, I'm so excited to see you. How was your day? I've been counting down the minutes to see you." Yeah, I know that's not every day, all the time, but I don't know. I think what you're saying is that it starts to happen in such small, little, insidious ways that you don't realize. All of a sudden, you wake up and you're like, "Oh my god, I don't even really want to spend
Well,
time with you."
I also think too is that, one of the things I've been aware of with some of the interactions we've had with, like I said, several different couples, which have all been so deep, is that also, when you are committed to doing the work on like your like what you're saying, like some of your triggers, um, it doesn't mean that you don't have triggers. Like you just get different ones, right? But you work through some of the ones you have. So you learn how to respond to those differently instead of react. So there's a difference between, in my opinion, respond versus react, right? And one of the things that I think that you and I have done that we've made changes is like just be really starting to be aware of like what does trigger the other person. And understanding what is underneath that instead of like just reacting to the person's response, like the way that they reacted to it. But the reason I'm saying this is that like if you asked me, oh, this is what I was going to tell you. So I was just listening to another couple friend of ours. They do a podcast together. It's amazing. They took a break for a while. They started again. And they were talking, the wife, Danielle, wrote a book. She just published her first book. And I was just listening on the way over here to record with you. And she's talking about Garrett reading her book for the first time
And not realizing how she felt.
and not realizing how she felt about these events. And their marriage has a lot of similarities to ours. And she's talking about a 15-year time period. So I'm also talking about now a 16-year time period. Um, of us being married, and it made me really think about it. I was like, "Man, it is so much easier for men to just, like, say what they think versus women." Right? Like, what to say what they feel, and, this was kind of like she was saying how interesting it was to be on the other side of having Garrett read her book back, and about how he had no idea how she felt about some of these things. And she was saying, "I had no idea either until I started writing." And, it just made me think about is, like, there's so much lost in translation sometimes in a marriage. So sometimes that just taking baby steps, and what I'm focusing on right now is just like this some of the simplicity we've had is, like I said, just in simplicity of communication, and being consistent with our communication, which we were not very good at and continually need to work on no matter how many years we've been married. But it just made me really, like, back to our anniversary, really reflect when you posted about that, um, on, like, how much growth has happened, and I feel like if there are people reading our stuff or looking at our stuff, meaning our even our listening to this right now, they're probably like, "Oh, these people like, like, they haven't seen the distance we've come from where we started from."
Mhm.
And I think that this is a really common thing that makes you complacent in relationships is that, like, you have a history together and it's like you have to choose each other and choose to work in it and on it and through things. And I think that some of this complacency in relationships comes from the fact that that's the easy route. The easy route is not to look at it. The easy route is
Mhm.
not to do it. The
Mhm.
easy route is to just be quiet and not say anything. Just like you were saying, just with that woman that was saying about, like, I hope my husband plans something. Man, I can totally relate to that because that's how I was for years. But people don't see that right now, like with what we put out in terms of even the conversation we're having here. They don't see all that darkness, all that work that had to be done. And I think that it's like part of it is just like starting to like at for me, I really struggle to usually ask what I want. And the past couple years, I've like started to exercise that muscle where I'm like, listen, this is what I want to do for our anniversary. What do you think about this? I always ask for your input. This is what I want for my birthday. Like, I remember, it's so funny. I was thinking about this today. We were in the fish store, um, picking up fish for dinner on my birthday. Remember?
Mhm.
And you were trying to talk me out of what I was trying to buy. Remember?
Okay.
Okay. And do you remember what happened?
You just got what you wanted anyway?
Nope.
I
You were
said
arguing with me about how I didn't need that much fish or something like that
no.
in the store. You were arguing about something.
It was
And
not an argument. It was just like a
or
discussion. It was just
okay.
like I was trying to
And
make the
I
rational decision.
literally turned around to you and I was like, "It's my birthday. That's what I want. That's what I want to get." And when we were leaving the store, I was like, "Oh my god." I was like, "I said that in public."
Yeah, but I listened to you, didn't I?
And you listened right away. And I was like, "Wow." I was like,
Wow,
I don't think anybody else
It works when you're
saw
clear.
it,
When you're
but I was
clear.
like,
When
when
you're
I'm direct,
clear and
it
direct.
actually freaking works. Like you like that morning, you were like, "What do you want to do today?" And I was like, "I want to go sit and drink my coffee on the dock by myself, and then I want to be able to go pick flowers." And you were like, "Okay," made it happen. So it's just like it's exercising a muscle because like even to Kendra a couple of years ago, like I would have been like, oh, like, yeah, I hope he plans something, just like you were saying she does. And it's like that's not communication. Like you can't read my mind. And then it sets me up for being disappointed if I don't communicate what I actually want. But I can sit here today and say that, but a couple year version of me literally could never say that.
Well, there was one other thing she said, the woman that I was working with today, that really got me thinking, and it made me sad actually. She said that I said, "Well, why don't you just ask for what you want to do for your birthday?"
Mm,
And she says, "Well, I've tried that, and he thinks I already complained too much," or she said something along the
mm,
lines of that. So I don't know if it came out the way she wanted it to. I think maybe like her asking for what she wanted, she wasn't, maybe she was in the habit of like complaining about like what they were doing or what they wanted to do, but never spoke up for herself to say that I wanted to do this. So she complains about what they're doing, which probably ended up being what he wanted to do. And I just think about how that plays out for so many people, likely, and how all that would have just taken would be like for the guy to listen and for the woman to say, listen, this is what I want to do tomorrow. Can we make that happen? And it's just very clear and concise. Now, I'm not saying the guy won't try to argue or change mind, but I just saw that play out in that moment where she said, like, you know, she said something like, he already thinks I complain too much, or he already thinks that I like am too difficult or something like that. And I was like, wow, that's pretty sad, because it's probably not true. She probably just isn't clear about what she wants, or she's afraid to ask for what she wants.
Yeah, there's a deeper story behind it.
And it's not afraid in the way that she's like physically afraid, that she's like emotionally afraid, because she's either been shut down enough times, or she hasn't been listened to, or
she's been told that by not maybe her husband, but by other people, that her voice doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or her opinion doesn't matter.
And that plays out the other way around. Like
there could be so much behind that, right?
Yeah, that plays out the other way around too. When guys don't ask for what they want, let's say in the bedroom, for example, and then because the wife has resentment because he doesn't listen, and then do you see how it like works both ways? Which is why you have to do the work individually first before you work on it as a couple. Because I don't think like us deciding like, okay, Kendra, we're going to work on this marriage. Let's try to fix the way that you're doing things.
That this is a really good point.
That would not go over well.
When we first started therapy years ago, okay, that's exactly what your approach was.
Okay. Tell me how that was.
We sat in the therapist's office and I was the problem.
Which one? Which therapist?
That really bad one in Cummings Center.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh my God. That was like, I was not ready for therapy at that point.
And that's what happened. My first experience with a therapist ever was this guy.
I was still such a victim.
You were so angry.
Yeah.
And you made me sound like I was the worst person in the world.
I honestly don't remember what I said. I just remember
it was all about sex.
I just remember the feeling, for sure.
And it made me never want to see a therapist till probably we found Steven, which was actually no, we had
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
did you really? Wow.
Well, this is where I'm going with even telling you about Garrett and Danielle's story, because when she was sharing this story,
yeah, but just share your story.
It brought me back to this even experience about how we went to this therapist. And like I said, that was like,
what year was that?
I don't know. We would have to really think about it. But like that experience was so negative. Again, this is my first experience with physical therapy where we're like actually sitting in a therapist's office.
Not physical therapy.
No, like
in-person
marriage,
therapy.
in-person therapy. Okay. And you picked the guy.
Oh, okay. Of course I did.
First of all. And then, like I said, I literally sat and I could not believe we paid $200 an hour for me to sit there and take what you were dosing out. And this guy not to take sides, which was his professional duty as a therapist, right? Was like not to take sides, but he also asked completely sucky questions. So that was my first experience. Then we tried a therapist we found through BetterHelp.
Yeah, but that was years later.
And hold on, that was years later, because that first experience for me was so traumatizing. And then what ended up happening, how I got open to couples therapy was I actually got my own therapist. And I worked through some of my trauma that I did not feel safe enough to share with you at that time.
Okay.
And no, don't mock me.
I'm not. The way you said it, though, was like, I did not feel safe to show you.
I mean, emotionally, not physically. And so, but what was so interesting to me, I was like, just like even I just shared that about that first experience, you didn't even remember it. But like, I remember that so clearly. Like I can remember what I was wearing.
I do now remember it. I'm not saying I remember everything I said,
but the reason I bring that up is that like I said, just like you're saying, like there's two sides to it, but it's like we can have this like the same experience, but a totally different like experience of it, like that makes a core memory. And I think that there's so much that is like this is another way that like communication gets shut off. Because did I come to you and be like, I'm never I like I had a horrible experience? No, I did not say that. You didn't even know that till I just shared that, right? I just said I'm never going back to that guy again. Because that was my indirect way of saying that was
Well, you weren't.
completely
You
mortifying.
also weren't ready to talk about that topic.
Because it wasn't even about that.
Well,
It was
for me,
about the
for
fact
me,
that you hadn't told the truth.
For me, it clearly was.
I know, but it was.
hold on.
Here's the thing:
You
couples
weren't.
therapy is not just about
I
you.
know, but I'm saying you weren't ready to hear my truth as much as I wasn't ready to hear yours.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what I'm saying. It goes both ways. Like you had to take responsibility as much as I did for like how we were both showing up.
Right. And we all, but what I'm saying to your point that you just said is that part of it was working individually on yourself.
Yeah.
So that we could work together as a couple. Right. Because then if you don't do the individual stuff, it wasn't until I started the individual stuff that I actually started to see that actually I definitely had challenges, but I also wasn't the only part of the problem. It takes two. And so that opened me up to be able to pursue couples therapy because I started doing work on myself.
Yeah. And similarly, like we spent tens of thousands of dollars on trying to figure me out over the course of years. I pretty much, I had to get completely shattered emotionally to finally take ownership of like who I was.
Yeah. And that's I don't think everybody needs to do that. I think that
just really stubborn idiots like me,
persistent honey badgers like you need to do that.
I think that some of like, I don't know, I don't want to say it, but I think that what I've been afraid of all along was like, because I have such a caring heart for people and I'm an empathetic person and I'm compassionate, but at the same time, I was like, am I a narcissist? Like, I can't tell you how many times I Googled that and like researched it and looked at it and like diagnosed myself with part of those tendencies. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm broken. Like I'm fucked up.
Yeah. And then what did I start calling you? When I would get really mad at you, what I would say? What would I say?
I don't know. What would you say?
What would I call you?
A narcissist. Yeah.
100%. And what would that trigger?
Oh, I mean, all of my stories about how I don't want to be a narcissist and how my mom was a narcissist.
Yeah. And you had,
but that's how I started in plant therapy. That's plant medicine. But I think that it took a lot of beat down emotionally for me to humble myself to a point where I was like recognizing that the way that my wife was showing up, and to like specifically for me sexually, because it's so important, was a direct mirror of my lack of showing up for you. And I like, to me, it took so much for me to like recognize and like take action and see that like I was like the problem. Like I was my biggest problem, but my biggest solution at the same time.
Yeah.
And I had to trust so much that I was like, Kendra will show up as the wife that I've always wanted if I show up as the husband she always wanted. And I think people lose hope and faith in that over time. Like we're talking about, when you drift so far, I think that you lose that. I think a lot of people, you have to think back of like, well, what drew you together in the first place? Like, how were you in that first year or two together? And you just sort of lose that ability to see each other in that way. And it's just because so much life happens. But then you have to recognize is like, well, here's kind of the direction that I went with myself that isn't the person I want to be for my wife, or vice versa. How
about for yourself?
Yeah, or yourself. I mean, ultimately it's for yourself.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just kind of blabbing about this, but
no, I think it's good. I think okay, so another thing that came up, this is obviously a stream of consciousness episode. When you saying that, another conversation I've been having with quite a few females is recognizing when their man is fearful. So I think the opposite of women not being able to share what they actually want is how much I have noticed that men, when they're afraid, have a really hard time voicing what they're afraid of. And one of the things we were chatting with one of my girlfriends and I, who's very intuitive, um, she was sharing about an experience with her husband where she realized that like his reaction to stuff was like totally out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
But he couldn't name it that way. Like he couldn't call it. And she said she started like dealing with it differently with him because she realized it was literally out of fear. Even though he couldn't. And I thought about this the other day. I was like, man, I was like, fear is an emotion that men specifically, I think, have a very different context around. And meaning like it's really hard to admit when you're afraid.
Well, for men especially, yeah, because you don't want to appear weak.
Yes. Okay. Like there's this whole cultural conversation around that, right? And I just recently actually after this conversation, I was thinking about how there was a week, it was probably about 2 weeks ago, where you were just like really off. Remember you were like really like
Yeah.
a kind of reverting back to some of your old reactivity. Um and I wanted to get really angry with it. Like I wanted to like confront you on it. And then her and I had this conversation and I started to reflect and I kind of started to shift a little bit. I left you alone for a little while. Like I wanted you to sit in it and see if you could work through it without me because I felt that if I confronted this at that specific time when you were in it, um it wasn't going to go the right way. It was kind of my fear. My fear. And so I started to kind of like explore what are possible things that like could be fears for him. Um and it shifted me into compassion too for you to see like okay, these are some of the things that I possibly he might be afraid of. Um and I think that was was also a really big teaching moment for me because we hadn't had a little bit of a drift like you're talking about in our day-to-day life in a really long time. Like our drift, one of the things that I think is consistent from us doing couple therapy, is that like your fights and your drifts, they become less frequent and less intense. Like your recovery time gets faster, right?
Okay, so what do you think I was afraid of? What do you mean?
So there were a couple things that I felt you were being reactive with a couple things that were going on at the office. And then I started to dig a little bit deeper of like when I asked you about it, you gave me kind of like a surface answer and I was like, can I read into this more? And I started to realize some of the things that you were afraid of. Um and so I started to have, like I said, came from a place of compassion instead of distancing myself for you. I started asking you a little bit different questions. Is it something going on at the office? Do you want to talk about it? Instead of like my normal thing, which is like, I'm just going to avoid the shit out of Ryan when he's being,
Yeah, but that's what
reactive
you do.
Ryan.
You stonewall.
I stonewall. That's my pattern. So I started that way.
Yep.
But then without a conversation, I totally changed how I dealt with it. And then you softened.
Yeah.
And then you kind of work through it. So what I think you afraid of? You were afraid of a couple of things that I know you need to make decisions on about our business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weighing on you.
Mm-hmm.
And because of it, you were short with me. You were short with Lily. And if I had to guess, you probably might have been short with your team. Even though they had nothing to do with the situation, a couple of the situations that you've been having to handle behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So it allowed me to give you grace to work through something instead of confront it. This was a moment where it wasn't going to be helpful to confront. And I think that that is something that I've started to learn a little bit more about in the last couple months of like, hey, when do
Yeah, but
I?
here's the thing is I don't always need you to confront me. I don't think
This is what I'm
listen,
saying.
men don't want their wife to confront them.
Mhm.
Listen to me. What
I'm
I
listening.
want from you, and I've told you repeatedly, I've said this many times, is like, and we've gotten this feedback from various people that we've consulted with over the years, is like, I am a heart type. I just need you to be my place of like a safety nest. You know what I'm saying? Like I want my home. I want you to be somebody that like is warm and inviting and intimate and close and safe. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I don't want my wife to like confront me. And when I get triggered, a lot of times is like I get home and then you just start in on me on things, and like I can handle it more than I used to, but then all I hear is like the same thing my mom did to my dad. Was just like my dad worked 12 hours and he comes home. He's like, you need to help with the kids with the bed. I've been with him all day. He's like, oh my God, we got these bills. And then what the fuck is that over there? And you didn't even fix this yet. And it's like, and then all of a sudden you're just in like complete fight or flight mode and you just put your armor back on. You're like, okay, I guess I'm going to war with my wife too. And that's not fun. That's not good.
Right. But in the flip side, it's the same thing of when like I spend a couple hours cleaning something and then you literally look and you're like, why is this here?
Yeah.
But hold on. No, I want to stick with this because it's like, here's the challenge. When reactive Ryan comes home, shields go up.
Yeah, and then when critical Kendra comes around, then fucking the reactivity comes up.
Right. But like you're losing the point.
No, I'm not losing the point. You're not. You're
No,
you're
yes,
losing,
you are
you're
losing the
losing
point.
your part in it.
No, I'm not.
You are.
The point is that if you let me finish and stop interrupting me, I can finish. Is that what I was saying is that there's a difference between the word confront and question. A lot of times you turn my questions into confrontations. And that's your shit, not mine.
I understand, but sometimes
Nope,
the tone.
I'm not done.
Okay, but here's the thing.
I'm not done.
Okay, go ahead.
And the other thing is that it's the when you shift and you start to see me as your mother, which I am not, chastising your father, very different scenario we have. But I have to become aware that that's a trigger for you.
Right. So
and I know that.
The way around that is you don't use the tonality of scolding, criticism, and like intensity or confrontation. I'm saying that is like what I don't need from you. I'm fine with you asking me questions, but you come and give me a hug, put your hand on my heart, and like, and you want to have a conversation. Like, I'd be totally receptive to that. But when it comes at me, that's when it just like and if especially I'm not ready for it, then I'm fucked. Then I need to do like 12 burpees and fucking reset. I don't know.
But my point and I have no idea how we got off onto this is I guess my point is changing your approach. Like I've just noticed like I said, that fight, that whole your energy, it was 2 or 3 days. It didn't happen overnight where your energy was very intense.
Mhm.
And I am learning how to change my approach a little bit. Because I'm learning that like that approach that I typically have where I go into, as you describe it, like you call it critical bitch Kendra, which triggers the fuck out of me.
I wasn't gonna say that.
And then
we can just stick with reactive Ryan and critical Kendra.
Okay, so we're gonna eliminate the word bitch.
Yeah,
let's do that in real life then too. So
then you can get rid of reactive asshole. Then
no, it's dick.
Oh,
reactive dick,
well,
Ryan.
I get both,
so
which I can be.
Yes, you can. And I can also be critical bitch. But like I don't want to get stuck there.
No.
You know, like, and so my point is that like changing your approach and how you do things is how you override complacency in your marriage.
But what I understand from people is like it's really hard if your wife is being critical bitch and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna make the change and like change my approach. Why should I do that? Because my wife's being this way, that doesn't work. Like the tit for tat,
Yeah, it's blame game.
the blame game, that's what I had to get over. And
Yeah.
that's what changed everything, was like just detach yourself from the outcome. Detach yourself from like what you think you're going to get, and just like practice doing it and see what happens.
Okay.
That's my best advice.
That's good advice.
Yeah. All right. You want to wrap it up? 40 minutes.
Yeah. So how do we wrap it?
You're good at wrapping it up.
No, you're going to wrap it up today.
All right, gang. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you gained some value from that. We just kind of went off on like 12 different things. So there wasn't any one
True to my ADHD style.
Yeah. So anyhow, thanks for listening. I hope you guys join us every couple weeks. We'll be back in 2. I think
after our trip.
Yeah. Is that when we're going to record next?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll record after our Croatia trip. We'll loop you guys in on how that went. So anyways.
Oh, we actually might need to do an episode in between so we can run it while we're not here.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, gang. Thank you for listening. As always, we'll see you next time.